On the 52nd floor of Red Flame Mountain, amidst the barren rocks like stakes on the endless plain, hot winds howled through the air. The entire space was blazing like an oven, and those who lived here naturally had to have exceptional prowess. With a head and shoulders ablaze, the boar with a broken right horn glared at the man in front of it with its remaining eye. It was much bulkier than the man, its bloated belly almost obscuring its muscular legs that peeked out from under a tattered cloth. The only one daring to face this monster on the 52nd floor was a man already retired, his silver hair flowing in the wind above his cloak. He was clearly old, yet he seemed unusually formidable. Although many years had passed and the man in front had changed, the boss of the 52nd floor chuckled mockingly. "Who do we have here? A human from outside the tower. I thought you'd have dived from my flame curse." Sejun stood with hands on hips, staring at the fiery beast with a calm demeanor. He knew its sarcastic nature better than anyone, so he was prepared with words to counter, exuding utmost confidence. "I had a really nice vacation for the last few years. Thanks for that. It seems like you've been enjoying your life in the tower with just one eye, huh?" Taejun's sarcasm was unbeatable, especially seeing the giant face burning with genuine hatred. He continued, "How much have you eaten? I think I'm even smelling the barbecue smell all this way. Ha ha ha!" Just a few words were enough to drive the Red Flame Mountain boss mad. It raised its fire-covered claws, matching its head, with eyes gleaming with hatred, and the boar bellowed loudly. "Oink oink, you bastard! I'll make you regret ever showing yourself before me again." It leaped forward, its massive body lunging towards Taejun with a vigorous dance. The bang-bang sounds echoed as the fire of the Red Flame Mountain boss collided with the ground, scattering fire and rocks everywhere. From afar, nothing could be seen but the boar's back flaunting its strength. But this was nothing to intimidate Taejun. On the contrary, he felt extremely excited, as this scene was not much different from decades ago. Seeing the beast flexing its muscles, Taejun laughed heartily. "These kinds of tricks won't work anymore, because I have sweet sun pumpkin potato with me." He pulled out the sun sweet potato, larger than his hand, without glancing at it, yet Taejun's eyes were filled with pride. Because of this, he was ready to dive into the boar's fiery domain to confront it. Without hesitation, his old but incredibly strong teeth bit into the sun sweet potato with a crunch, its crispy sound echoing. A few pieces flew out, but just 1/9 swallowed was enough to fill Taejun with a strange power. The fire curse within him seemed to be expelled by this power, and Taejun clenched his fists, roaring to free himself from the curse that had bound him for years. In an instant, it took effect, even making the boar, who cast the curse, widen its eyes in disbelief. How did you?" it stammered, looking at the man who had returned to his normal state. It had never seen anyone able to break the curse right before its eyes, so effortlessly. Taejun didn't bother explaining. He sprang from his spot, his beard and hair fluttering in the wind, his figure becoming blurry, but his eyes remained fixed on his target. Opposite, welcoming Taejun's move, the boar's claw came crashing down with a snort, its face fierce. It didn't know how this human had escaped its fire curse, but both now and decades ago, it wanted him dead. Suddenly, a wave made of fire blocked Taejun's path, twice his height, resembling a mini fire tsunami. It gave a burning sensation even without contact. Yet Taejun didn't hesitate, charging straight ahead without pausing for a second, letting the fiery wave pour over his head. His eyes fixed on the target, these minor attacks were nothing to him. As the wave crashed down, Taejun's shadow blurred, as if burnt to countless pieces. This was a move that once terrified Taejun. Human skin couldn't withstand the Red Flame Mountain boar's fire. But this monster knew that too, so as soon as it saw Taejun's shadow blur, it opened its mouth and laughed heartily. "Oh ho ho, become a whole roasted food." The beast even raised its right foot to show off. But surprise, surprise, the fire wave it was so proud of now had a round hole highlighting the figure that appeared inside. It was none other than Taejun. Somehow, he had passed through the fire wave, twisting his body as he flew towards the boar. Knowing he had successfully avoided danger, a bright smile appeared on Taejun's lips. "I told you it doesn't work anymore, didn't I?" His muscular frame proving his words completely true. When Taejun was almost within reach of its bloated belly, the Red Flame Mountain boar realized its enemy had gotten very close. It could only squeal twice before, thinking it couldn't stop him in time. Its claws still accurately clamped around Taejun's large body, pinning his arms tightly to his chest, easily immobilizing him. The fire from the boar's front limbs spread to Taejun's knees, and seeing the surprise on his face, the boar was immensely pleased. "I'll crush you so you can't do anything." Determined to eliminate the threat it had left unresolved over a decade ago, it didn't mind taunting its enemy a bit more. But the boar's words seemed weightless, as Taejun simply looked it straight in the eye and reminded, "You seem to have forgotten, since it's been a long time since we fought." Amidst the flying fire sparks, a green light appeared out of nowhere, resembling water waves surrounding the boar, making it realize something was off. Simultaneously, Taejun cast a blue light around himself, like a formation he conjured without using his hands. In an instant, the sky above the boar filled with countless stars chasing each other, forming beautiful circles. It stared dumbfounded, though still holding Taejun, realizing these phenomena were his doing. Taejun didn't need to hide it. He directly announced to the boar before sending it to heaven, "But I'm a magician." The moment the beautiful blue light enveloped its flabby face, the boar knew true fear. Its squeals echoed, but it was too late. The star-like lights turned into hundreds of thousands of sharp, beautiful but deadly needles, piercing the beast's body, sounding like someone preparing a piece of meat for roasting. After a while, the 52nd floor boss lay on the ground, its face charred black, its left tusk broken. The Red Flame Mountain boss looked so pitiful, it was nothing more than a rag under Taejun's foot. He stepped on the massive, now burnt-smelling body, feeling victory surrounding him. Finally, it was over. He admired his trophy and soon saw notifications flashing in the sky. "You have defeated the 52nd floor boss, Burning Wild Boar. The flame curse of the Burning Wild Boar is being lifted. The land burned by the wild boar's curse is being restored." Around him, it was like a curtain had been lifted. The fiery, dry Fire Mountain scenery disappeared, replaced by the boss's corpse on a grassy field, trees gradually recovering, and Taejun felt a freshness in his body, like he was young again. Seeing the persistent fire on his hand disappear suddenly, Taejun joyfully realized the fire curse was gone. So this floor was cursed like him. Once the monster causing the curse was eliminated, both people and the environment could be restored. Looking at the nearly intact sun sweet potato, he thought, "Just one bite, and it had the power to help me overcome the terrifying fire wave the boar had unleashed." Taejun looked at it gratefully. "I could do this all thanks to the sun sweet potato. How can I repay this debt?" At that moment, he heard the whining of an extremely irritable monster stomping through the newly grown grass. Grass is suddenly growing from the ground, nya? It's uncomfortable to walk around in, nya. Looking in that direction, Taejun saw an orange cat with a bit of white fur, walking on its hind legs, trampling the green grass, staring at him like seeing a strange creature. But before the cat could speak, Taejun excitedly shouted, "Wandering cat merchant?" His joy was justified. Since retiring, Taejun had conquered the boar immediately upon entering the tower, and now seeing a cute, harmless monster, he couldn't help but be happy. Seeing his excitement, Theo suddenly became more cautious, opening his mouth and warily meowing back. "What do you mean by that?" More importantly, the wandering merchant cat's tone shifted instantly, pointing its claw upward and shouting, "Oi, old man, where did you get that thing in your hand, nya?" The thing in his hand was none other than the sun sweet potato. Taejun still looked at it with a doting gaze, no different from looking at a precious child. Despite the merchant cat's strange attitude, he wanted to tell it a long story. Moments later, sitting next to Taejun was the cat, its right ear waving constantly. "Meow, so you are Dongshik's master?" it asked, eyes wide in surprise, then commented innocently, "He brought the sweet sun pumpkin potato for his master. What a fine disciple, nya." Taejun burst into laughter, throwing his head back and laughing heartily. "Ha! That's right! I really am proud of our Dongshik." Looking down at this wandering cat that knew his student, "You said you were Theo, right? I was able to get rid of the flame curse thanks to you. Thank you. You saved me. I owe you. I shall not forget this kindness." Theo didn't care about the favor. It just looked at him and made a strange request. "Nyaha, then repay that debt now, nya." Taejun was puzzled. How could he return it? Seeing his confusion, Theo's cunning face became evident. Raising a paw pad, it said, "Make a contract with me, nya." Don't think Taejun agreed immediately. He was a legendary hunter after all. Crossing his arms, he looked at the cat with amusement and asked, "A contract? Huh. In the tower, contracts are an important constraining magic. I don't want to be constrained to you." Theo stood up, retorting, "Nya, Didn't you say you'd like to repay your debt to me? Become my underling, yeah. Taejun paid no heed, still crossing his arms and pretending to look away, simply replying with few words. I don't want to, making Theo switch to a pleading tone, no longer as arrogant as before. Clinging to Taejun's arm, it whined. Become my underling, nya? Taejun kindly turned back, extending a finger to the cat. How about this? Let's become friends. If anything happens, this grandpa will grant your request as a friend. Theo seemed satisfied, curiously asking, Friends? You'll grant any request, nya? Taejun successfully diverted the cat's attention, laughing and responding, Ho ho, anything Theo wants since we're friends. However, Theo had already prepared what to say when making friends with Taejun. Putting its hands on its hips, it called out, All right, meow, then competent old friend, follow me to the 38th floor, nya. Whether friends or not didn't matter. The way Theo stood with hands on hips and spoke was no different from a master ordering a subordinate. Perhaps in its mind, only the title changed, while commanding this hunter remained the same. Unclear why Theo led to the 38th floor, but on the 99th floor, smoke was billowing. Under the wooden lid was the sound of bubbling, trying to push it off. As soon as it was lifted, the fragrant smell immediately wafted out with the white smoke. Anyone present would smell the fresh, sweet aroma of vegetables permeating every cell. Even Sejun, who ate delicious and clean food daily, was amazed. Oh my, smells tasty. Turning to the little rabbit by his feet, he asked, I think it's been boiling for almost 12 hours. Should be okay to eat now, right? It obediently replied, I think so. Sejun asked because the main ingredient of this dish was red locust meat, something he had never cooked before, needing the rabbits to tell if it was done. He extended his hand for the little one to add more salt. There were many dishes made from red locusts, waiting for Sejun to showcase his cooking skills. Nearby was a pile of neatly prepared red locust meat, promising a hearty meal full of protein. Not long ago, seeing monsters eating so appetizingly, Sejun was curious and tried cooking. Though the appearance might be scary, the important thing was to absorb a lot of protein. Seeing Kwang drooling with anticipation, it was clear that Sejun's so-called scary appearance didn't matter to it. The cleaned red locust floated in the sauce, making its mouth water. Thanks to this protein, Sejun created a delicious red locust soup, immediately recognized by the system. The achievement of cooking the first boiled red locust in the tower has been achieved. Cooking skill has leveled up by 3. Looking at the fatty red locust meat floating, Sejun suddenly felt very excited. Seems like there hasn't been anyone to cook red locusts in the tower before. Dad had peeled off the hard skin, cut off the flesh, and boiled it. That was the only way he could only eat it, as the hard skin was impossible to cook properly. Sejun cupped his hands around the piece of cooked red locust meat, the size of his palms, and took a bite, intending to test if this cooking method worked. But as soon as his teeth touched, he couldn't bite through the seemingly delicious meat. Trying again, the young man lifted his head to pull the meat apart, but it was tougher than solid natural rubber. Sejun found himself struggling until the piece of red locust meat tore off, falling into his mouth, just as he lost his balance and his head hit the stone wall behind him with a thud, startling the red bear. The impact was so loud that Black Rabbit, concerned, walked through the small animal door and asked, What's going on? Seeing no one but his uncle clutching his head and rolling on the ground, Black Rabbit realized Sejun was hurt, but what bothered him more was the tough and dry meat. At that moment, a notification appeared not far from Sejun's face, showing continuous messages that startled him. You have acquired red locust meat. The trace amount of poison remains in the red locust meat. You have been poisoned Class E neurotoxin. You have been detoxified. Only then did Sejun realize there was poison in the red locust meat. Glancing at Kwang, who was about to eat the remaining meat that he couldn't digest, Sejun murmured, Had it not been for the detoxifying green onion, I could have died. Kwang didn't hurry to take a bite, instead laughing, Dad, to not be able to eat this delicious thing, I pity Dad. How weak is your teeth? Sejun, at a loss for words, glared at the bear. For Kwang, who chews on the tough blade green onion, you shouldn't be saying that. After several failed attempts, Sejun finally made red locust soup with smaller pieces of meat for easier digestion. This time, he carried a bowl of soup to the next room, offering it to the couple inside. Mother Rabbit, it's time to eat. Father Rabbit eagerly ran out to receive the food, while his wife held a small bag containing 3 soft yellow fur balls snuggling together. The aroma and Sejun's instructions made the couple smile happily. Eating something tender is good when your body is recovering. Cool it down and take your time eating in your room. They thanked Sejun profusely, already knowing the red locust soup would be delicious. Thanks to this dish, Sejun unlocked a new achievement. According to the system, you have created the first red locust soup, the first combat food in the tower. It explained that the thinly sliced red locust meat, combined with detoxifying green onions and power-enhancing potatoes, when simmered for a long time, resulted in a flavorful dish. The detoxifying green onions not only neutralized the toxins in the meat, but also tenderized it, extending the dish's shelf life. After eating for 30 minutes, strength increased by approximately 5.1 upon consumption. Strength points increased by 0.1 with the level 2 cooking level 2 effect. And due to the combat food effect, it will keep you full for 3 hours. Prepared by Tower Farmer chef Park Sejun, the dish had a 30-day shelf life, grade C+. As he stirred the soup in his hand, Sejun marveled at the system notification close by, which even added the unusual title, Combat Food. It sounded pretty cool. Behind him, Kwang naturally had his share, and the rabbit family freely divided the large pot of soup that Sejun had cooked. He scooped a spoonful into his mouth to test the flavor, not knowing what to expect, and suddenly stood up with an expression of utter astonishment, causing the rabbit family and Kwang behind him to look on in surprise. Seeing his father suddenly trembling, Kwang asked, "Dad, what's wrong?" Sejun's face was still in shock, his hand shaking as he pointed to the contents of his soup bowl, telling his son, "Tastes like chicken meat." Even Sejun couldn't believe it himself as he said it, his face glowing with happiness, a tear forming at the corner of his eye. Happiness alone couldn't describe Sejun's feelings at that moment. How long had it been since he last tasted this familiar protein? However, Kwang didn't know what chicken tasted like. All he had in his hand was a half-eaten piece of red locust meat. He wanted to know what chicken tasted like to make his father so joyful. But Sejun had no chicken to explain with, so he gently patted Kwang's short red fur, simply saying, "Something Dad likes." Kwang didn't mind. If Dad likes it, then I like it too. On the 235th day, Sejun's diary had a new, excited entry. "I've discovered a strange version of chicken meat in the tower." Just that simple fact made his days feel more peaceful and joyful, much like the 3 generations of honeybees huddling together on their onion leaf roof. The farmer's joy spread everywhere, making even the creatures around him feel more relaxed and at ease. One more bowl. "Kwang, would you like some too?"